High Admiral Crick Steelscale's voice reverberated throughout the crystalline chamber, echoing off the prismatic walls with an authority that silenced even the most obstinate council members. Commander Vex Bloodclaw stifled an amused grunt as he observed the smaller species scrambling to attention. His imposing, scaled physique dwarfed the other representatives, crimson scales shimmering under the council chamber's artificial light. These assemblies usually bored him to no end, or would, if Draconians experienced boredom. However, today's agenda had piqued his interest. "We have received alarming news," Crick announced, his claws tapping rhythmically on the hovering control panel. "Our long-range scouts have discovered an inhabited world in the unexplored Orion sector." "Another primitive species?" Representative Pick squeaked, their gelatinous form quivering with excitement. "How intriguing. Perhaps we could." "A Class 12 death world?" Crick interrupted, triggering immediate pandemonium in the chamber. Vex's head snapped up, all four of his secondary breathing vents flaring in astonishment. That was impossible. The Draconians were the only species to have evolved on a Class 12 world. It was their claim to fame, their source of pride, the reason they held such elevated positions in the Galactic Federation's military. Preposterous. Vex found himself rising to his feet, his tail producing a satisfying crack as it struck the ground. Our sensors must be malfunctioning. No other species could endure conditions like our homeworld. Council member Zara Brightest, her luminescent form pulsing with tranquil blues and greens, raised a tendril. "The data has been verified 3 times, Commander Bloodclaw. But that's not the most astonishing aspect." She paused, her colors shifting to an uncertain violet. "The inhabitants, they call themselves humans. And their world, it's actually classified as a Class 13. The chamber erupted once more, but Vex barely registered the clamor of shocked voices and alarmed whistles. Class 13? That was theoretical, a world so unforgiving that even Draconians would struggle to survive. "Show me," he demanded, employing his override codes to access the main holographic display. The image that materialized made his scales crawl with disbelief. The creatures appeared soft, even fragile, no scales, no natural armor, no apparent defensive capabilities. They walked on 2 legs, like some prey species, with laughably vulnerable-looking skin exposed to the elements. "This has to be a joke," he rumbled, turning to Crick. "These humans, they evolved on this death trap?" "Not only evolved," Zara continued, her colors now a blend of fascination and concern, "they've thrived. They've built civilizations in every hostile environment their world offers, from frozen wastelands to scorching deserts, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains." "That's nothing," Vex scoffed. "We Draconians do the same." Commander Crick's voice held an unusual note of, was that fear? "They do it without biological adaptations. They haven't evolved specialized forms for each environment. They simply build things, make tools, change their surroundings instead of changing themselves." The implications struck Vex like a plasma fist. A species that could adapt without adapting, that could survive by sheer force of will and ingenuity rather than natural evolution. "There's more," Zara added, her color now a deep red of warning. "They've already detected our presence. And while they're requesting a meeting, they sent a message. Would you like to hear it?" Vex nodded, his secondary heart beginning to race with anticipation. A new voice filled the chamber, speaking in flawless translated galactic standard. "Greetings, friends from the stars. We noticed your ships trying to hide behind our moon. Next time, you might want to account for our primitive radio telescopes. We've got coffee and snacks ready whenever you'd like to stop by. Fair warning, though, our gravity might be a bit much for you folks." The message ended with a sound that made Vex's scales stand on end, human laughter. They were treating first contact with the galaxy's most feared warriors as a casual dinner invitation. "Well," Vex said, finally finding his voice, "this should be interesting." After the council meeting, Commander Vex Bloodclaw stormed through the crystalline corridors of the Galactic Federation headquarters, his claws leaving faint scratches on the floor. Several smaller species pressed themselves against the walls as he passed, their natural survival instinct screaming danger. Good, at least some things still made sense in this universe.
Commander, Zara Brightest's voice chimed behind him, your report on the Draconian homeworld conditions is due before we make contact. Vex turned, towering over the luminescent council member. You want me to explain why we're superior? Fine. Follow me to the hollow room.
His voice carried the pride of a species that had conquered the impossible. The hollow room hummed to life, projecting a massive image of Dror Prime. The planet was a nightmare made real. 3 suns cast perpetual daylight across red-tinted wastelands, while massive electrical storms wrapped around the equator like a glowing belt. This, Vex gestured with a clawed hand, is what made us who we are. Triple gravity environment, constant radiation, atmospheric pressure that would crush most species into paste. He paused, watching Zara's colors shift to an impressed yellow. The weakest among us can lift 10 times their body weight. Our scales deflect energy weapons. We breathe nitrogen and filter toxins that would kill most species instantly. The hologram shifted to show a draconian hunting party taking down a titan beast, a creature that made Earth's extinct dinosaurs look like pets. The hunters moved with lethal grace, their enhanced muscles and reinforced bone structure allowing them to fight in conditions that would reduce other species to puddles. Our secondary hearts provide backup circulation, Vex continued, warming to his subject. We can survive in vacuum for 30 minutes. Radiation? Heck, we drink it for breakfast, literally. Our young absorb radioactive minerals to develop their scales. Zara's colors swirled with curiosity. And the humans survive in similar conditions? That's what makes no sense. Vex slammed his tail against the floor, causing the hollow projectors to flicker. Look at their world. The image changed to Earth, beautiful, terrible Earth. Their gravity is higher than ours. Their atmospheric pressure would make our scales crack. They have extreme temperature variations that swing from burning heat to freezing cold, sometimes in the same location. Their planet is mostly covered in corrosive dihydrogen monoxide, for star's sake. You mean water? Zara's lights pulsed with amusement. Don't get smart with me, Vex growled. The point is, they shouldn't exist. We Draconians became what we are through millions of years of evolution, each adaptation carefully crafted by survival. Look at me. He spread his arms, showcasing the perfection of Draconian evolution, a 4-meter-tall frame covered in nearly impenetrable scales, massive muscles designed to function under crushing gravity, multiple redundant organs, retractable claws that could tear through starship hull plating. And yet, Zara's voice held a note of fascination. These humans survived worse without any of this. Impossible, Vex muttered, but doubt crept into his voice. We are the apex species, the ultimate warriors. When the Grand Empire tried to invade us, we ate their battle cruisers, literally ate them. Our digestive systems can process metal. The hologram showed historical footage of that famous battle, Draconian warriors leaping through space with minimal protection, tearing apart enemy ships with their bear claws. It was their proudest moment, the day the galaxy learned to fear them. Which reminds me, Zara's colors shifted to a teasing pink. Did you read the full report on human warfare? What about it? Vex asked suspiciously. They split atoms for fun, created weapons that can destroy planets by accident. They call it nuclear science, playing with the fundamental forces of the universe because they were curious. Vex's scales itched again. That's concerning. Oh, and they poison themselves for enjoyment. They call it spicy food, literally eating chemicals that cause pain because they like the sensation. Now you're just making things up. And they drink liquid containing ethanol, a substance that literally kills their brain cells slowly, for recreation. Vex stared at the hologram of Earth, feeling a newfound respect mixed with horror. Perhaps, he said slowly, we should approach this first contact with more caution. Scared? Zara's lights danced with mischief. Draconians don't get scared, Vex replied automatically. We get strategically concerned. The hologram flickered one last time, showing a human child playing in something called snow, laughing while being pelted with frozen water crystals that would give a Draconian severe thermal shock. Right, Vex muttered, strategically very concerned indeed. The cloaked Draconian scout ship Shadowfang hovered behind Earth's moon, its advanced stealth systems rendering it invisible to most forms of detection, or so they thought.
Commander Vex Bloodclaw stood on the bridge, watching the blue-green death trap of a planet through the viewscreen.
Status report, he barked at his science officer, Rena Quickmind, who was frantically analyzing data streams. It's worse than we thought, Commander. Rena's scales had taken on a pale green hue of disbelief. They're launching themselves into space using controlled explosions. They strap themselves to tanks of liquid fuel and just blast off.
That's insane. Vex muttered, show me their space vehicles. The screen displayed various human spacecraft, primitive, held together by what looked like metal rivets and hope. No gravity generators, no inertial dampeners, just pure mathematical calculations and raw courage. Sir, Lieutenant Korg Steeltooth called out from his station, you need to see this. The humans, they're playing in their oceans.
The view shifted to a beach scene.
Humans of various sizes were willingly entering the corrosive dihydrogen monoxide, some riding on its waves using primitive boards. They were laughing while being tossed around by liquid death.
Perhaps they're an aquatic species, Vex suggested weakly.
Negative, sir.
Look at this, they're also climbing frozen mountains without equipment, for fun. They call it free climbing, according to their information network. Vex's tail twitched nervously. At least tell me they avoid their polar regions.
Rena pulled up more footage.
They live there, sir.
They've built cities on ice.
And when it gets too cold, they cut holes in frozen lakes and go swimming.
Swimming in ice water, for recreation.
Vex felt his secondary heart skip a beat.
What about their hot regions? They've built cities in their deserts, too.
And sometimes they gather in small rooms to pour water on hot rocks to create steam.
Then they sit in it.
They call it a sauna, deliberately subjecting themselves to heat stress and humidity for relaxation.
The bridge fell silent as the crew tried to process this information.
These humans weren't just surviving their death trap world, they were playing with its deadliest aspects for entertainment. Sir, Lieutenant Korg's voice cracked slightly, we have a problem.
They're hailing us. What? That's impossible. Our cloaking technology is? Hello up there.
A cheerful voice boomed through the ship's speakers.
This is Houston Space Control. We've been watching you watch us for the past week. Nice cloaking tech, but you might want to account for the coffee stain you're leaving on our radio signals. Coffee stain?
Vex whispered in confusion.
Oh, right, you probably don't know what coffee is yet, the voice continued.
It's this amazing bitter bean juice that we drink to make us more productive. Highly addictive, totally legal, definitely not a drug.
Anyway, would you like to come down for a proper chat? We've got some spare landing pads at Kennedy Space Center.
Vex turned to his crew, all of whom looked as lost as he felt.
This has to be a trap.
Not a trap, the human voice chimed in again, though I totally get why you'd think that.
Tell you what, we're having a barbecue this weekend.
It's where we gather around controlled fires to char animal flesh before consuming it.
You're welcome to join. We'll even adjust the gravity in the visitor center for you. How do they know about our gravity requirements?
Rena hissed. Oh, we've been studying your ship's structural integrity field outputs, the human replied casually. Based on the reinforcement patterns, we figured you folks must be from a high-gravity world.
Don't worry, we deal with variable gravity all the time. Some of our astronauts even grow a bit taller in space, drives our medical team nuts. Vex felt a headache coming on.
These humans had not only detected them but had been analyzing their technology while making casual conversation about their bizarre customs.
Sir, Korg looked uncertain, should we retreat and request reinforcements before?
Before Vex could respond, another human voice joined the conversation.
Hey, if you guys are worried about the atmosphere, don't be. We've got these awesome things called pressure suits, basically portable environments.
We invented them because we really wanted to walk on our moon, for science.
For science? Vex repeated weakly. Yeah.
Speaking of which, our sensors show your ships using some really interesting quantum field manipulations for that cloaking effect.
Any chance you'd be up for a technology exchange? We've got these things called means we could trade.
The entire bridge crew turned to Vex, waiting for his decision. Here they were, the galaxy's most feared warriors, being invited to a casual meal by beings who treated lethal environments as playgrounds and discussed advanced quantum mechanics in the same breath as whatever memes were.
Very well, Vex said, finally trying to maintain some dignity. We accept your invitation. Send us the landing coordinates. Awesome. Fair warning, though, Dave from Propulsion insists on showing everyone his hot sauce collection. Don't feel pressured to try it.
Last time he shared it with some visiting physicists, they spent 3 days in the medical bay, convinced they could see through time.
As the communication ended, Vex turned to his crew. Remember, he said gravely, we are Draconians. We fear nothing.
Serena looked up from her console.
They just sent us their music collection as a welcome gift. They have something called death metal. Should I play it?
Vex considered his options carefully. Perhaps, he said with what remained of his dignity, we should start with something lighter. The sound that filled the bridge moments later was called Never Gonna Give You Up by someone named Rick Astley.
Somehow, Vex knew this first contact was going to rewrite everything the Draconians thought they knew about the galaxy.
The Kennedy Space Center had been transformed into what the humans called a sporting arena, though to Commander Vex Bloodclaw, it looked more like a death trap obstacle course, perfect for Draconian combat trials. After 3 days of increasingly bizarre cultural exchanges, including something called a hot dog eating contest that still gave him nightmares, Vex had finally convinced the human delegation to agree to traditional Draconian strength testing. So let me get this straight, Captain Jack Reynolds said, munching on his 4th bag of something called Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Apparently, humans like their snacks to cause pain. You want to challenge us to a series of physical trials to prove your species' superiority?
Exactly, Vex proclaimed, trying to ignore the orange dust covering the humans' fingers. Our warriors against your best.
Cool, cool.
Jack nodded, reaching for another bag. Hey, Marina, you up for some alien gladiator games?
A small human female stepped forward, and Vex nearly choked on his own surprise. She couldn't have been more than 1.7 meters tall, with a build that suggested she'd snap like a twig in Dror Prime's gravity. Marina Chen, she extended her hand, a gesture Vex had learned was not, in fact, a prelude to combat. Olympic decathlete, retired Marine, and current holder of the world record for the ultra-death marathon through Death Valley.
The what through where now?
Vex asked, his tail twitching nervously. Oh, it's this fun run through one of Earth's hottest deserts, 50 miles, no support crew, carry your own water.
I did it in 7 hours flat.
She grinned, bouncing on her toes.
So, what kind of trials are we talking about?
Vex straightened to his full height, trying to regain control of the situation.
3 challenges. First, a test of strength in triple gravity. Then, a radiation-filled obstacle course.
Finally, combat in our toxic atmosphere chamber.
Neat. Marina's eyes lit up. Can I wear my regular gym clothes, or should I go full hazmat? You understand these trials could be fatal? Vex asked, concern mixing with confusion.
Oh, honey, she patted his armored forearm, I did CrossFit for 3 years.
Nothing's fatal after that. The next morning, the arena was ready. The Draconian engineers had outdone themselves, creating a hellscape that would challenge even their most hardened warriors.
The human spectators, rather than showing appropriate fear, had set up what they called a tailgate party, complete with grills cooking various meats and something called nachos. First challenge, Vex announced to the gathered crowd, weightlifting in triple gravity. Marina stepped into the gravity chamber, wearing nothing but shorts and a tank top with the words "Suns Out Guns Out" printed across it.
The Draconian warrior facing her, Grunt Ripjaw, was covered in protective armor and breathing apparatus.
Quick question, Marina raised her hand.
Is this like Olympic lifting rules, or can I use any technique? You must lift the ceremonial boulder of ancestors.
Vex pointed to a massive rock that had been imported from Dror Prime.
It weighs 2,000 kilograms in normal gravity.
Oh, So it's like strongman competition rules, Marina nodded, pulling some chalk from her gym bag.
Cool. By the way, has anyone here heard of leverage and pivot points? What happened next would be talked about in Draconian bars for generations.
Using something she called basic physics in good form, Marina managed to shift the boulder using techniques that made several Draconian physics experts need to lie down. That's not how it's supposed to work, Vex muttered as Marina did victory laps around the stone. Next up, Vex announced, hoping to salvage some dignity, the obstacle course. You must navigate through radiation levels that would kill most species.
Marina was applying sunscreen, of all things. Radiation? Like a Chernobyl? I did a documentary there last year. Beautiful place, lots of wildlife. Now, the mutations are fascinating. You voluntarily went to a radiation zone for entertainment? Well, yeah, plus I needed content for my Instagram. Speaking of which, hey Jack, get some good shots for my followers. The obstacle course was a disaster, not because Marina failed, but because she treated it like something called American Ninja Warrior, complete with unnecessary flips and what she termed parkour moves for the audience. Final challenge, Vex's voice had taken on a slightly hysterical edge, the toxic atmosphere chamber. Marina was taking selfies with some of the defeated Draconian warriors. Oh, cool, like that time I climbed Everest without oxygen, or more like when I did that free diving competition in the Mariana Trench. The what in the where? Vex felt his scales itching again. You know what would make this more interesting? Marina suggested, strapping on what looked like disappointingly basic protective gear. We should add some spice to it. I brought some Carolina Reapers. They're these peppers that make you feel like your face is melting. Vex looked at his fellow Draconians, then at this tiny human who treated their most extreme challenges like a fun afternoon workout. Something deep in his ancestral memory, some primitive survival instinct, told him that backing down might be the better part of valor. Perhaps, he said carefully, we should call the trials complete for today. Ah, really? Marina looked genuinely disappointed. I was just getting warmed up. Hey, who wants to try this new pre-workout supplement I've been developing? It's only mostly illegal in 3 countries. The mighty Draconian warriors, terror of the galaxy, took one collective step backward. Despite Commander Vex Bloodclaw's attempts to end the trials early, the humans, led by an increasingly enthusiastic Marina Chen, insisted on completing all planned events. The massive viewing screens displayed both species' vital signs, which only added to the Draconian confusion. Your heart rate is elevated, Vex noted with concern as Marina bounced on her toes before the endurance trial. Oh, yeah, that's the pre-workout kicking in, plus the coffee, and the energy drink, and maybe those weird mushrooms Jack gave me, she grinned, pupils slightly dilated. By the way, who's doing the commentary? We should live stream this. The first real test was the lava pit traverse, a 50-meter crossing over actual molten rock, with temperatures that would melt standard Federation battleship hull plating. The Draconian champion, Sergeant Ash Flamescale, stepped up in his thermal protection suit. Wait! Marina called out, rummaging through her gym bag. Let me just change shoes. My regular CrossFit ones might melt. You're not wearing a thermal suit? Vex asked, mandibles clicking with stress. Nah, too restrictive. Besides, I did that volcanic ultramarathon in Hawaii last year. Now that was hot, though the views were totally worth it. She pulled out what looked like ridiculously inadequate footwear. These are my heat-resistant parkour shoes. Only slightly experimental. What followed was perhaps the most stylistically different crossing ever witnessed. Flamescale moved with practiced Draconian precision, carefully testing each step. Marina treated it like something called the floor is lava game, which apparently human children played for fun. Parkour, she exclaimed, propelling herself across platforms with gratuitous flips. Hey, this is much simpler than that hot coal walking retreat I attended in Peru. Next was the acid rain chamber. The Draconians had meticulously designed it to replicate the most corrosive storms from their native planet. Their champion entered donning fully sealed environmental armor. Marina strolled in wearing what she termed her usual Tuesday running attire and carrying an umbrella.
You know, she remarked conversationally as caustic droplets sizzled around them, this reminds me of that instance I sprinted through a Category 5 hurricane because my electricity went out, and I desperately craved a breakfast burrito. You braved a planetary storm for sustenance, the Draconian champion inquired, his voice crackling through his protective gear.
Well, yeah.
It was from this fantastic food truck, and they craft their own hot sauce.
Speaking of which, care for some? I always have a bottle.
She extracted something labeled Death's Sweet Embrace from her seemingly boundless gym bag.
The underwater survival test should have been the Draconians' moment of triumph.
Their enhanced lungs could extract oxygen from liquid far more effectively than any known species.
3 minutes is the record, Vex declared proudly. No non-Draconian has ever endured that long. Cool, Marina responded, performing some light stretches. But a quick query, are we permitted to utilize controlled hyperventilation and the mammalian diving reflex, or would you prefer I just improvise? The what and the what now?
For minutes later, the Draconians watched in stunned silence as Marina finally surfaced, appearing mildly inconvenienced. Apologies for that, she said, wringing water from her hair. I became engrossed in counting my heartbeats.
Did you know humans can voluntarily decelerate their metabolism?
Super handy during those winter survival courses I instruct, though the students typically tap out when we reach the ice-breaking segment.
The strength trials fared no better for Draconian pride.
While their warriors could indeed hoist immense weights, Marina introduced concepts like leverage, mechanical advantage, and something deeply unsettling called CrossFit kipping. That's cheating, protested one Draconian judge as Marina employed a complex pulley system to move a boulder.
Really, she looked genuinely perplexed. Then what would you call those powered armor suits you're all wearing? Standard environmental protection. Aha. Marina nodded sagely while setting up another pulley. You know, humans invented simple machines while still living in caves, right?
Along with throwing spears, which, by the way, completely revolutionized hunting.
Speaking of throwing, want to see how far I can hurl this boulder using rotational momentum?
The aerial agility tests in the high-gravity chamber were next. The Draconians had anticipated their natural advantage in dense atmospheres to finally manifest. Instead, they learned about human sports like gymnastics, parkour, and something called interpretive dance, which Marina insisted on incorporating into her routine. So you're saying, Vex attempted to clarify, watching Marina do a triple backflip for seemingly no tactical purpose, humans regularly throw themselves through the air, spinning multiple times, for entertainment?
Oh yeah. You should check out the X Games.
That's where humans do even wilder stuff, usually while guzzling energy drinks and yelling YOLO, which means, actually, never mind.
That might fry your brains.
The final event was supposed to be a simple survival challenge in varying atmospheric conditions. The Draconians had prepared chambers with different mixtures of toxic gases.
Marina brought snacks. Trail mix, anyone, she offered to the increasingly despondent Draconian officials. I added some extra spicy wasabi peas. Really clears the sinuses. How?
Vex watched as she casually adjusted her oxygen mask while solving a Rubik's Cube in the methane chamber.
How are you so calm about all this?
Oh, this is nothing. You should experience Black Friday shopping at the mall.
Now that's survival horror.
Though I once used my credit card as a battering ram, which technically got me banned from Target. Totally worth it for 60% off running shoes, though. As the day drew to a close, the Draconian warriors gathered around Marina, their earlier superiority replaced by something approaching religious awe.
But seriously, one young warrior asked, how do humans do all this?
Marina shrugged, chugging something that smelled like liquid radiation.
We get bored easily. Hey, want to see some videos of human toddlers? Talk about indestructible. They bounce right back up unless they're tired or hungry.
Then they become weapons of mass destruction. Vex watched as his mighty warriors crowded around Marina's phone, alternating between horror and fascination at videos of tiny humans doing what appeared to be their best to defy both physics and self-preservation instincts.
One last question, he said. Are all humans like you? Marina laughed. Oh no, I'm pretty average. You should meet my grandmother.
She still goes skydiving on weekends, and her spicy dumpling recipe once sent 3 people to the hospital. We had to sign a waiver to get it included in the family cookbook. The mighty Draconians, terror of the galaxy, collectively decided that perhaps being the second most dangerous species in the universe wasn't so bad after all. 2 weeks after the trials, Commander Vex Bloodclaw sat in his office aboard the Shadow Fong, staring at the final analysis reports. His scales had taken on a pale, almost white shade, a sign of profound draconian distress. Commander, Rena quick